Hello and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network live this afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern as President Trump is scheduled to land aboard Air Force One in the United Kingdom for the state visit, a second state visit to our friends across the pond, something that's been a first for the United States and for a president with His Majesty King Charles III, in a large way to honor the late Queen Elizabeth II, who he was quite fond of, along with tariff agreements and arrangements with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who is very unpopular at the moment across the entire kingdom, and specifically within the nation of Great Britain. We look forward to that landing from President Trump aboard Air Force One at 3:50 Eastern. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network for all of that. And your humble correspondent, yours truly, Robert McNeely, would like to remind you that today is National Voter Registration Day. So make sure you do that in case you happen to not be, or remind those to get registered and vote, because this is a constitutional republic based upon how you participate, and voting is the bare minimum, as we've been reminded over the course of these profound yet very sad days, honoring our friend Charlie Kirk and those who have lost their lives to preventable violence. Yes, preventable violence, whether it be through having to handle mental illness, to those who were allowed out by Democrat prosecutors and judges across the nation. As we analyze the news and events, we do have a press gaggle from earlier today with President Trump leaving the White House onto the South Lawn before boarding Marine One. We can toss that there now to catch you up.
They'll have a big influence on this, when too late, getting his rates down again. Who knows? You never know with too late, but he's done a lousy job. The rate should be much lower, much lower. But I just signed his document and all of the papers, and Steve Myron is now on.
Did you believe in the independence on the Federal Reserve?
Round of fences is now underway in Gaza City. Your reaction to
Well, we're going to see what happens, because I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble. They're going to be in big trouble. They put it out 2 days ago that they're going to use the hostages as human shields. That's something that has been done for a long time, you know. Let me tell you, if they do that, they're in big trouble.
On the Federal Reserve, do you believe the Federal Reserve is an independent body? What do you think about the independence?
Oh, it should be, but I think they should listen to smart people like me. I think I have a better instinct than him. If you look, all the economists got it wrong. I got it right, along with one other people out of 100. So they should listen to people that are smart. Nothing wrong with that. But they have to make their own choice. But they should listen.
Prime Minister Netanyahu?
No idea.
What about the idea of Israel beginning this ground offensive in Gaza City? Do you support that?
Well, I have to see. I mean, I don't know too much about it. I can tell you that if they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas, as protection, as what they call them, bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to pay.
Your trip to the UK today, what do you hope to achieve?
Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this one's at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice. But basically, I'm there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. We've never done this well. We're having trillions of dollars coming because of the tariffs. And they'd like to see if they could get a little bit better deal. So we'll talk to them. But primarily it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king. And it's an honor to have him as king. And, you know, I think he represents the country so well. I've watched. He's such an elegant gentleman, and he represents the country so well.
Actor Robert Redford passed away today. Did you hear about
He
that?
did? Wow.
Apparently in his sleep at his home.
Well, that's a good way to go, I guess. But I'll tell you, Robert Redford was great. He had a series of years that there was nobody better. This just happened, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
He died at his home in Utah in his sleep.
Yeah.
And what movie would you say you liked the best in?
Well, you have a lot of them. Honestly, I'd say he made 7 or 8 great movies. They were really great. There was a period of time when he was the hottest. I thought he was great.
On TikTok. Will TikTok go dark? Are you going to delay the TikTok ban?
Well, we have a deal on TikTok. I've reached a deal with China. I'm going to speak to President Xi on Friday to confirm everything up. We made a very good trade deal, and I hope good for both countries, but a very different deal than they've made in the past.
What companies are going to buy
We'll be announcing that. We have a group of very big companies that want to buy it. And, you know, the kids wanted it so badly. I had parents calling me up. They don't want it for themselves. They want it for their kids. They say, if I don't get it done, they're in big trouble with their kids. And I think it's great. I hate to see value like that thrown out the window.
So on auto executives...
And, you know, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars.
Some auto executives are concerned that compromising the 15% for auto tariffs coming in hurts American automakers. What do you say to...
Well, I haven't compromised anything. Where did I compromise?
Going down to 15% from 25.
Going down to 15%.
From 25.
We charge, well, and where did the 25 come from? It came from there. Can you tell me? Just so you know, they paid nothing for years. Now they're paying 15%. And some things can pay more, like chips could pay more. Pharmaceuticals could pay more. You know, there's a bigger margin. With a car, you have to make 15% before you make a profit. It's pretty tough. So, but we had a good deal. Don't forget, European Union is paying our country because of tariffs $950 billion. Think of that. We're talking about a year. $950 billion. Japan is paying us $650 billion. These are countries that paid us nothing until I came along. And China's paying us a tremendous tariff. You know what the tariff is, right? You know what the tariff they're paying us? Yeah. What?
Yeah, so it's 30% for the fentanyl as well as whatever for the 301.
20% for the fentanyl. But the overall is about 55%. Okay? That's as opposed to nothing. Would you say that's a difference? We have a big decision coming up, and if the Supreme Court rules the way hopefully they will, because, I mean, every legal expert said we win that case, but you still have to watch. And the Supreme Court's been terrific. I think they're very fair. All I want is fairness, and we win. But if we win the Supreme Court case, which is the finalization of tariffs, we will be by far the richest country anywhere in the world, and we'll be able to help our people more, and we'll be able to help other countries when we want to. But I will say, if we win that case, our country, you see what we've taken in just on a temporary basis. We've taken in trillions of dollars, trillions with a T, and we will be by far the richest country in the world. There'll be nothing close. And you know, one other thing, we'll have tremendous power to negotiate. The use of tariffs. I settled 7 wars. 4 of them was because I was able to use tariffs.
Hopefully, the other day in an interview, put aside the fact that some CEOs make hundreds of times more in salary than average workers. He's worried about polarization. Yeah. Do you share that concern?
Well, I do say there's a big gap. I do say that. Don't forget, I'm a popularist. There's a big gap.
Mr. President, it's been a month since a month on, do you think that meeting accomplished what you hoped?
Yeah, accomplished a lot, but it takes 2 to tango also. You know, those are 2 people, Zelensky and Putin, that hate each other. And it looks like I have to sit in the room with them because they can't sit in the room together. There's great hatred there. But no, that meeting accomplished a lot.
Mr. President, you don't have complete confidence in Patel. What are you hoping comes from his testimony on the Hill today?
Well, first of all, I think that Pam Bondi has done an unbelievable job, and everybody agrees to that. And Cash, if you take a look at what he did with respect to this horrible person that he just captured. He did it in 2 days. It took other similar cases 4 days, 5 days. 4 years, if you look at certain shooters. Now, I have confidence in everybody in the administration. My administration, and a lot of people are saying it, not just me, it's so far the best administration ever formed. You look at our financial people. Our country is making a fortune. We have to keep tariffs because our country has become successful because of tariffs. We have the case in the Supreme Court. That's a very vital case for the success of our country. It's very vital to negotiate with other countries. And remember, other countries charge us tariffs. That's a very, very big case. And if we win that case, our country will be by far the richest country anywhere in the world. And then we can help our people. We'll get rid of debt. We'll get rid of everything. We can help our people, and we can even help other countries where they need it.
Mr. President, narcotics in Venezuela. Narcotics in Venezuela. President Maduro in Venezuela says that you're getting ready to invade his country. What is his message to him?
Well, I would say this right away. Stop sending Tren de Aragua into the United States. Stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked off actually 3 boats, not 2, but you saw 2. And the problem is there are very few boats out in the water. There are not a lot of boats out in the water. I can't imagine why. Not even fishing boats. There's nobody. Nobody wants to go take a fish. So it's one of those things. But I would say to him very strongly, stop sending people from your prisons into our country. They're sending their prisoners. They've done that already. So the numbers just came out. Another month with 0 people getting into our country. And these are figures, John, with people like you that would like me to do badly. Nobody has ever done on the border like I've done.
Mr. President, what will you tell President Zelensky if you meet with him in New York?
Well, he's going to have to get going and make a deal. He's going to have to make a deal. Zelensky's going to have to make a deal. And Europe has to stop buying oil from Russia. Okay? You know, they talk, but they have to stop buying oil from Russia.
Mr. President, there are some
regarded to be the wealthiest man who's ever occupied the White House. How much wealthier are you now than when you returned to the White House?
Well, I don't know. The deals I made, for the most part, other than what my kids are doing, you know, they're running my business. But most of the deals that I've made were made before. And that's what I've done for a life. I built buildings. Like I'm building a building here. You know where I'm building? You know what? You see that area? Yeah. That is going to be the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world. And for 150, so it gives me pleasure to do it for the country. And I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it. The country is not, and that's an expensive ballroom.
But is it appropriate?
I think it'll cost $250 million, and it will be, I think, the finest ballroom. So for 150 years, John, do you know this? They've wanted a ballroom. And now they're going to finally have it. And it's going to knock your socks off.
But is it appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity?
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone.
Well,
go ahead, John.
Maybe
you can set a nicer tone.
The UAE does a deal. What does it want in return?
Quiet.
Mr. President, what are you hearing about the operation in Gaza, the Israeli operation? Are you concerned?
Well, I'm hearing that they want to go in, and I'm also hearing that Hamas wants to take our 20 hostages plus dead bodies. You know, they have about 32 of them, and they want to put them in the way of any attack. And nobody's happy about that situation. It came out yesterday. I'm sure you saw that. They want to, supposedly they've taken the hostage out of deep caves and tunnels, and they're bringing them, putting them on the front line. Nobody's heard of that one for a few centuries.
We saw that the UN said that Israel is guilty of genocide, that they've committed acts of genocide in Gaza.
They voted on that?
They have a new report out saying multiple acts of genocide.
When it comes to a vote, we'll see what happens. That'll come to a vote, but we'll see what happens.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
Should probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million. for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair. And the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country. But we're fixing it. We have right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. And remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead. And now Washington, D.C. is fixed, and I fixed it. The mayor was fine. The mayor was just fine. Okay? The mayor had the sick city for many years. He's been mayor for many years. The one that fixed it was me and my people. And it is so safe. You should take your beautiful wife tonight and have dinner down there. You won't be shot. You won't be accosted. You won't even be looked at incorrectly by anybody. Washington, D.C. is safe. Now we're going to Memphis, where it's pretty rough, to put it mildly. And then we're going to have to go. A friend of mine who is a big railroader, he stops in all the cities. He knows every city. He said, sir, you have to save Chicago. So I'm going to go to Chicago early against Pritzker. Pritzker's nothing. If Pritzker was smart, he'd say, please come in. So last week, over the last week and a half, 11 people in Chicago were killed, murdered, and 38 were shot. And then Pritzker, and by the way, this is going on constantly. If they lose less than 6 or 7 people a week with murder, they're doing a great job in their opinion. Chicago is a death trap, and I'm going to make it just like I did with D.C., just like I'll do with Memphis. Now, remember this. So a man comes into my office, one of the biggest businessmen. I'll tell you, he runs Union Pacific. Is that big? Biggest railroad in the world, I guess. And he started off as a railroader. He was running a railroad, a little caboose. He was in a caboose. Now he runs the whole damn thing. 45 years ago, he started off in a caboose. I don't know what that's all about. And he became the top, so that's a good place to start. But he came in. He knows the country intimately. He's looking to do a merger by another railroad, the one that where had the little problem in East Palestine, right? And they want to buy that railroad, as you know. It's pretty public. But I sat with him and I talked. I said, so you know every city? Yes, sir. I go into every city, and I have for 45 years. I said, where would you go next? He said, St. Louis is in big trouble. He said, but Chicago is a great city. You can save Chicago, sir. Don't let Chicago die. This is a guy telling me with great knowledge and trust. He said, don't let Chicago die, sir. It's dying. Don't let it die. I'm going to Chicago next.
The UAE, Mr. President. What do you think they want when you do a deal with that federal trade?
Well, I just want something to happen, whether it's federal, state, and most likely it's going to be state. The question is whether or not we overlap with a federal judge. So they're looking at that. But the state is very competent. The governor's doing a very good job. As you know, they have the death penalty. It's a tough death penalty, too, as you know. But they have the death penalty. So as to whether or not we judge, we will be working with them. We may or may not be able to judge.
And when it comes to the governor of Utah, what do you make of his overall message of nonviolence?
Well, I agree with it. I agree 100%. But most of the violence is on the left.
He said that social media is a cancer.
What?
Do you agree with that? The Utah governor said that social media is a cancer and more people should log off and take some time away.
Well, it's not a cancer in all respects. In some respects, it's great. But there are segments, there are deep, dark holes that are cancerous, absolutely. Beyond cancer, they're death.
How are you going to get China to open their market?
The Supreme Court this morning denied Patty Willis's appeal of your case for moving this up to the
Well, that was a great decision. It was a rigged case to start off with. It's great. The court just ruled that she is a disaster. She's a disaster with a boyfriend. The boyfriend that she paid $1 million for his expertise, but he never did it before. Now, she should be prosecuted. What she did to people, forget about me, what Fannie Willis did to innocent people, patriots that love our country, what she did to them by indicting them and destroying them, she should be put in jail. She's a criminal. Fannie Willis is a criminal.
Will you apply more pressure to EU and NATO countries not to purchase Russian oil?
I do, but here's the problem. You know the problem. They're purchasing Russian oil. I don't want them purchasing Russian oil. and they've got to stop immediately. Not fair to us. They're purchasing Russian oil, and we have to, do things. Now, the nice part, it doesn't cost us anything anymore. You know that. Yeah. They are buying everything from us. Unlike Biden, who gave away $350 billion. We actually make money, but I don't want to make money. You know what I want? I want that war to stop, because last week 7,018 people got killed. Thank you.
Kirk, you were targeted today, just now. You're now 70 patriots in Ukraine 2 months ago.
Where are you from?
Ukraine.
Right.
Will they come, and do you know when there will come? The patriots.
What?
I
Who
mean.
comes?
The patriots. You announced 70 patriots to Ukraine 2 months ago.
Well, look, let me just tell you, I love Ukraine. I love the people of Ukraine. That's why I thought that was a little Ukrainian accent. But the country's in serious trouble. It should have never happened. It's a war that should have never happened. The country's in very serious trouble, but I'm going to get it stopped. I've done seven countries. I've stopped 7 wars in the last 8 months. I thought that would have been the easiest because I know Putin, but it's not, because there's tremendous hatred between Zelensky and Putin. But we're going to get it stopped.
How soon will you go to the Supreme Court to stop Lisa Cook?
Well, not really. No, it was just about getting
the most transparent president in history, very clear on that, with the challenges that face us in modern day, stating that President Trump looking to Chicago after the Memphis memorandum in Tennessee, which was joined by Governor Bill Lee, Senators Bill Haggerty, also Marsha Blackburn, looking to replace Governor Bill Lee as the next governor of the volunteer state, as well as law enforcement and FBI Director Kash Patel, who has been working overtime and with very little sleep, considering so much going on in America and the criminality over the past week. Imagine someone in your family waking up tomorrow with a fever, a cough, and spreading the flu all over the household. That definitely happens, as flu season prep is ready and available with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10. That's 10% off right now. Prepare your medicine cabinet before flu season. It's Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, and immune support, as well as 200 essential medications. It's the medicines that can literally save your life in this flu season. Now, it does not wait, so being proactive makes a lot of sense. To fill up that medicine cabinet or take these life-saving meds with you on your vacation to see fall foliage around this great nation of ours, whether it's especially New England or the upper Midwest. So why not stock up on the essentials? At RSBN, we trust All Family Pharmacy. They are the go-to online pharmacy. It's doctors and pharmacists, nurses who truly care for you. They're patriots, and you don't even need insurance. Just a prescription, a doctor's note to certify that life-saving medication. Don't get caught off guard this flu season. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And angelpaste.com, also great to use this time of year as the colder weather moves on in. I've used the Miracle Cream right here at the network. It got rid of my dry skin and left it glowing. There's also the orange option, vitamin C infused with non-GMO no chemicals, as well as the facial spray and an all-natural mosquito repellent. Experience the miracle today at angelpaste.com, a great Christian-owned company out of Spring, Texas, in the Houston Metroplex, and that's on the Gulf of America. And I sure do love saying Gulf of America in a golden era that has recently been rocked by violence and sadness that really has hurt the nation. If you look at the Memphis numbers alone, in 2024, 249 murders, 429 rapes, 5,616 burglaries, 12,522 violent assaults. And we are fortunate enough to be joined by a dear friend, a podcast host, and a Liberty University law student. And let me tell you, someone who really helped the Redbirds find their way at Illinois State when it came to the freedom movement. It's Kevin Ferris, who knew Charlie Kirk extraordinarily well. And Kevin, I'm so happy you came on the program today, my friend, because when I was managing the Midwest region in the field, Charlie would always ask me, how's our good friend Kevin doing? And tell us about that award he granted you a few years ago, because you came swinging with that Rocky quote, and I love it. Can you share that story? Oh, and I'm sorry, Kevin. I think we're having some technical difficulty. We'll stick with us. We'll get right back to you and make that all happen, because people have to listen to this great story about it's not how hard you get punched, it's how hard you get up from it and then hit back, of course, peacefully. Oh, there we go. There's Kevin. Oh, no, that's okay. It happens. It's live television or live streaming, however you like to put it, but it is the host of Speechless with Kevin Ferris. Tell us about that story, my friend, and also how are things at Liberty University's campus? As Charlie said, the premier Christian university across America.
Absolutely. There's not enough I can say about Charlie and to remember his legacy and discuss it. And I'm happy you brought up the award I got. I have it right here. It's clear, so it's not the easiest to see, but it was the Campus Warrior Award that I was awarded in 2022 from Charlie himself. And I got to say, in hindsight, to be called a Campus Warrior from Charlie Kirk is the greatest honor of my entire life. I will go on to earn my Juris Doctorate, my law degree from Liberty University, and I can tell you I'm still more proud to know that Charlie Kirk considered me a campus warrior when I was at Illinois State University. I earned that. I didn't even really know it was an award I could earn from Turning Point. I got involved with Turning Point because of Bobby McNeely all the way back in 2018, 2019. I was getting involved in the suburbs of Chicago in our local Republican Party, and I met Bobby McNeely at a meeting, and he was like, you should start a Turning Point chapter when you go off to school at Illinois State. And I was like, I'm going to be a freshman. Like, I don't know how that's going to work out. That's going to I might not make friends. And you said, who needs friends? You'll find the right ones. No, you said you'll find the right friends. And that's really what it was all about. And that was the message that Charlie was always saying too, is you don't need to appease these liberal crazies on your campus by keeping your mouth shut. You'll find better friends and the right friends by being more open about who you are and what you believe in. And so I started my chapter at Illinois State University. Within my first few months there, on November 11th of 2019, I was physically assaulted by a professor, and I was thrown down to the ground, but from hanging up posters for Turning Point, trying to garner interest for the chapter. And not a month later in Oak Brook, Illinois, I had the opportunity to first meet Charlie, in which I talked to him about that instance. And to me, I was surprised because he didn't seem surprised whatsoever. Because this issue of political violence from against students and now against Charlie, Charlie has had it before, not just in this instance, but political violence has been rampant across our country for years, which is just I'm happy people are starting to wake up to it. But come on, I mean we've been talking about this for years. This is not a new issue. Political violence against conservatives has been at the forefront of American politics as a student since before I was even in college. This is not new, everybody. And thank God some are waking up, but we should have done this a long time ago. We should have noticed this a long time ago. And when I tried to talk to my university about it, they just gave me lip service. They said, oh yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. But now, because of Charlie, I'm at Liberty University studying law so that I can try to have a fraction of the impact that Charlie did.
Well, I'm actually very fearful for the council that will go up against you, Kevin, because you are a humble, happy warrior, but truly a legend in the ranks of campus victory and the field, because you took on those battles peacefully and patriotically. And it was a pleasure and an honor to work directly with you at Illinois State. And what do you think it is over these years, dating back to Berkeley, even the birth of the free speech movement that was brought on by traditional liberals during that Vietnam and even prior to that, those eras? Why is there so much violence on our college campuses with those who simply want free enterprise, free speech, actually believe in the Constitution? Oh, and heck, they might just go to church on the weekend.
Because evil exists, Bobby. And that's what I think a lot of people have been really afraid to say, is that evil does exist. That's why people weren't listening when I was talking about it, when Charlie was talking about it, when so many were talking about it for years and years. It's because it's scary to say that evil exists, but it absolutely does. And so why do they resort to violence? Because when, as Charlie would always say, the way that you root out bad ideas is by offering good ones, and bad ideas don't have a rebuttal. And so when their feelings of, I feel like it's good to affirm a man that thinks they're a woman, or I feel like it's good to allow a woman to abort her baby, I feel these ways. But then when you come back at them and say, actually, men are men and women are women, and you can't change that, but that's a beautiful gift from God. And just as another beautiful gift from God is the unborn child in a woman's womb, no matter the circumstances of which it was conceived, then they have no response to that. They have no response to that because you're telling good to evil. And so what does evil do? It resorts to that violent reaction. And here's ultimately what we've seen in the last week, Bobby, is we've seen the culture that Charlie has culminated winning. But when you back a rabid dog into the corner, it only bites harder. And it's giving its fiercest bites right now because it is the dying breath of an evil movement that was attempting to take over the hearts and minds of America. But Charlie was winning. Charlie is winning, and Charlie will win.
And it seemed to have spilled out into all of American society, because even when I met you, Kevin, I thought that this was really isolated on the college campuses. It almost went for 3 layers for me, because when I was at the University of Illinois as a student in Urbana-Champaign, that's when I first encountered the far left. And it was during when Barack Obama came onto the scene as United States Senator and then ultimately ran for president and was victorious. And although I was not on that campaign, or I guess mystified by his movement, I definitely admired, especially for African American voters, that this can happen in the United States. That his first campaign was about hope and change was the narrative. It soon became very cruel and very mean-spirited, as we saw that the policies of the left deeply influencing that administration, and God knows what happened during the auto pen era. But you know the irony of our home state? We have a governor, J.B. Pritzker, who's now criticizing that ICE agents using masks to defend their identity and protection when they're going up against some of the worst criminal foreign terrorist organizations and gangs in the United States. Although he was busy with mask mandates and shutting down churches and shutting down gyms during COVID. And I think during COVID and the Summer of Love, the BLM George Floyd riots, that's when we saw the far left just spill out across all aspects of American society.
Absolutely. And speaking of our home state, we can never forget the eloquent words, I say that sarcastically, of Rahm Emanuel, who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And that's exactly what they did throughout COVID. I was just reminiscing, I guess you could say, with some friends here about COVID, because I had one friend from Florida here at Liberty, and then I had a friend from Virginia who at the time their governor was Ralph Northam, the evil Democrat that espoused some pretty hateful and awful things. And we compared our stories, and my friend from Florida was like, I loved COVID. I was outside all the time. I went to the beach and it was a great time. And then me and my friend from Virginia were like, oh my gosh, it was like prison. We were thrown, we were told we couldn't go anywhere. People were getting pulled over if you didn't have a mask on in your car. We had at my school, I was constantly getting, even being outside and tabling, trying to spread Charlie's message, even in the midst of chaos. We were getting reports that because we weren't wearing masks outside on campus, that we could be shut down as an organization. And we need to remind people of that, because it was through that instance of chaos that the Democrats and the liberals and the left were able to stoke so much fear that forced people into submission and conformity, like we had never seen before, and questioning the experts and questioning anybody and having that open dialogue and debate was discouraged, so much so that on YouTube you were banned if you even said that maybe the vaccine isn't as effective as they're telling us it is. And now, fortunately, we've started to have people that have come away from that brain fog and see, man, we really screwed up. And maybe it's now because our kids' education scores are at their lowest of the low and they only keep going down, and society has not gotten better. It's only gotten worse because of embracing those liberal leftist ideologies throughout the country.
Kevin, you've been in the middle of the fire. I think of the Garth Brooks song, Standing Outside the Fire. Life is not tried, it's merely survived. You're standing outside the fire. You jumped in to defend your fellow students and defend really a common sense way of life, not by force, but by sharing goodness, sharing the truth, just as Charlie did. What would you recommend to those people who may not have experienced our experiences at a nonprofit that was not necessarily a think tank, but rather a battle tank, who peacefully and patriotically, led by the charge of Charlie Kirk, made free speech awareness and known on campus, that the founding documents not only pertain to 250 years ago, but to right now in the American ethos? What would you recommend to those, let's just say they're working any private or public job, but they fear termination because they fear being scolded for being a right-wing conservative?
Well, here's my thing is that if we don't have truth, we have nothing. I mean, if we don't stand up for truth, then you have nothing. And so we just see, and you will be vindicated. That's the ultimate thing. I mean, a temporary setback, because you shared truth, will only result in eternal glory of some kind, and likely in the kingdom of heaven. And so that's what I'd say to anybody out there. I mean, we just saw a nurse who came out and reported her boss, a doctor, for celebrating Charlie's passing. And immediately the nurse was put on leave. And then when there was an outcry of support for her, they then put the doctor on leave and reinstated the nurse. And so that was a quick instance in which you can see, when you stand up for what is right, when you stand up for what is good, and when you stand up for what is truth, you will be vindicated. And now I'm not going to stand here and say that in every instance is it going to be that quick, in which there's not going to be necessary or potential repercussions. I mean, I have friends and family that I will likely never speak to again, and if we ever do, it probably will not be kind, because of the stances I've taken, because of the voice I've used, and me standing up for what I believe to be good and right, and what I know is good and right, because it's rooted within Scripture. And so it's not going to be an easy road, but God didn't intend for you to have an easy road. God intended for you, for those who are His followers, to stand up for His word. Because when there is evil out there, when we recognize that there is evil out there, it will come after you for saying what is good. But know that you are never alone. You are never alone, not only because you have people like me, people like yourself, Bobby, people like those the millions of people that have come out and stood up for Charlie since his passing. But you are also always walking step side by side with Christ.
Very wise words from a wise man. Tell us, Kevin, what some of those personal interactions where you don't have to share necessarily private conversations by any means, but what was it like, just the man, Charlie Kirk, to be amongst these conferences, to enjoy his presence, his speeches, but just the person behind the entire movement? And what is one key thing that you'll remember from his leadership within Turning Point USA?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to narrow it down to one, but to speak to some of my interactions, I'll tell a story. I hadn't really told anybody this story for a while, and I've only just started sharing it since his passing, because I found it really wise, but I was a little embarrassed of it, I'll be honest. When I earned the Campus Warrior Award, I was flown down to Mar-a-Lago with a few other warriors as well. And we had a few moments before the entire ceremony began, where we all kind of went into a room, talked to Charlie a little bit, and soon before the gala was supposed to begin, and our interaction was kind of coming to a close, I pulled out my business card and I was like, Charlie, we got a lot of work to do in your home state of Illinois. I'd love to make sure that we can stay in contact, because I'm helping run the ground game out there, and we could really use a lot more presence out there. And I go to hand him my business card, and he goes, Kevin, I got to be honest, I don't want your business card. Very matter of fact, like he does. And I was very taken aback because he was like my hero, the guy that's been leading me, the guy that has influenced me so much, saying I don't want your business card. And I go, oh, and he goes, it's not personal. I didn't mean that in a bad way. It's just that I have a lot of people about to come in through here, and I want to help Illinois, but it's just going to be a lot to keep track of. And Kev, you've done a lot of great work, and I love it, but you're not that yet. You should ask for my business card. He was giving me a piece of networking advice because here's a man who started at 18 with little to nothing, was scared because he wasn't going to college when the entire world was telling him he had to. And he just had a few good mentors to teach him and to hone his natural ability into what it became through forming Turning Point. And so that's what he was doing exactly for me. He was like, Kev, you're not that big. Ask for mine. And then he ended up giving me Mikey's, his like right hand man, and saying, anytime you need anything, reach out to Mikey, and you can get right to the ear of me and let me know that you need something. And it was a really great piece of wisdom. And that's the kind of guy he was. He was constantly thinking. He was constantly wanting to help and make people better. Charlie, almost as if he knew it was going to happen to him, was constantly training millions of hymns to be those self-starters, to recognize who you are and to stay humble. And it was a really beautiful moment and something that I'll cherish. I still have the card. I just went to a vigil at the Kennedy Center 2 nights ago where I brought the card with me, and it was just it was a really spiritual experience. But Charlie truly was, behind closed doors, the man that he was in front of the camera. And you can't say that for everybody that's in politics. There's a lot of people I've met where you see them on TV and they speak a lot differently. And look, some people keep their private lives private. I get it. Not speaking ill of anybody necessarily, but Charlie truly was. Every minute you saw of him on the Charlie Kirk show, every minute you saw of him talking with people on campus, trying to have good faith debate with people, that's who Charlie was. And so when I hear people and they're like, well, I never got a chance to meet him. And I'm like, you might not have ever shaken hands with the man and he said your name back to you or anything, but you met him in a way. I mean, because he was exactly who he presented himself to be.
And that's why I've been so touched by, and thank you, Kevin, for sharing that remarkable story, because it's been therapeutic for me in this process, not only to read the testimonies online, but to actually discuss these wonderful stories and to hear from strangers saying that we're actually mourning the loss of someone who was a stranger, but because you knew him, I feel like we knew him. And it's that ripple effect of goodness and the Charlie Kirk effect that we are seeing right now in real time. Where can we find your excellent podcast as well? It's Speechless with Kevin Ferris.
Yeah, you can go to YouTube, Speechless with Kevin Ferris, and you can find it there. You can follow me on everything. If you just look up my name, it's usually Kevin, Phares. It's right on the wall behind me back there, kind of. But you can go check it out, and you can see everything there. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm really focused on law school right now, and that's been my biggest thing. I got a lot to do, and I'm only at. Actually, that was another small story for a moment is I only learned about liberty because of Charlie. Charlie would always go out and be like, people shouldn't go to college. People shouldn't go to college because it is a liberal indoctrination factory. If you're going to college and you don't have your values set up for it, if you don't have values that you know how to defend, your core values, then you shouldn't be in college. And if you're going to college undecided, you shouldn't be in college. You should know what you want to do, because if you're going to go to college, which not all college is bad, even Charlie would say this as a caveat, is yeah, we're going to need doctors. We're going to need lawyers. We're going to need people with certain levels of degrees. But if you do go to college, you should have those strong value systems in place, know how to defend them, and then also look at where you're going. Because when I was at a Turning Point event in 2020, during COVID, actually, there was a liberty stand at it. And I went up to them and I learned a lot about liberty. I learned about its values. I learned about the Christ-centered worldview that they taught. And I was like, oh, do you guys have a law school? And they're like, yeah, we do actually. And it's pretty new. It's only about 21 years old. So I learned about it. And then I talked to Charlie briefly about it. And I was like, I'm looking to go to law school. And he said, you should look at liberty. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm looking at liberty. And then I applied, got in, and now I'm here. And so I am who I am. And I am where I am because of the man, the myth, the legend, forever in our hearts, Charlie Kirk.
Kevin Ferris, thank you so much for joining us today at Right Side Broadcasting Live Desk as we honor our dear friend Charlie Kirk and keep on keeping on, and please come back when, or even beforehand, give us some updates on Liberty University and all of your studies. We're rooting for you because I'm telling you, this guy, ladies and gentlemen, there is no grander warrior. You should see him at the doors. If you have a campaign for office, you got to get this guy. It's also a pleasure to knock doors with you, my friend, and to have fought in this battle in the trenches, not only from the Kennedy Center with the vigils happening there to all the way in Naperville, Illinois. Our neck of the woods had a beautiful remembrance of Charlie just the other night. So thank you for coming on once again. It's Speechless with Kevin Ferris. Be sure to follow him, and we'll see you at Right Side Broadcasting Network very soon.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
And as President Trump goes on his trip to the United Kingdom, lots going on in the United States stateside here, how to address not only the violence in Memphis, Tennessee, but also Chicago, Illinois. Also, a letter being written by GOP leadership in the Chicago suburbs calling out J.B. Pritzker for his comments trying to tie Charlie Kirk's assassination to January 6th and to President Trump and gun violence and completely going in a different direction. In fact, I have a personal thanks to make of a former president that I would normally not do, and it's Bill Clinton, for talking about how saddened and angered he was by the Kirk assassination. There was no attempt to tie it to apples and oranges or something else. Just simply sad as he was once a campus activist years ago, meeting the President of the United States, then John Fitzgerald Kennedy, in that very famous photo. And you could clearly see in the eyes of a young Bill Clinton, inspired by that, Charlie Kirk was someone easily on the ranks up there to possibly leading the United States of America. It's a consensus that we spoke of in the organization, and something that Charlie would always shoot down and say, no, don't talk about that. That's not the case. I'm here to do this work right now. He was stone cold, centered, and focused in the best of ways to get the mission done, the task at hand. In fact, someone who practiced that Eisenhower model perhaps better than anyone I knew. What did you have to get done in the next few hours, the next few days, to the next few weeks, or even months down the road? Always that centered focus, always highlighting the great work of people like Kevin Ferris and those around him to celebrate the American experiment. Thank you to our sponsors, covepure.com/RSBN. Get $200 off this extraordinary machine. It's the Cove Pure technology, the Clearwater technology, in fact, that they use to remove 99.9% of impurities out of the water. Now look at this. Utah and Florida removing the poisons and the fluorides, also the runoff from agricultural products in the tap water. Children that drink tap water on a regular basis, this was found by JAMA Pediatrics, their study with scientists and doctors, found that children could lose up to 2 or more points in IQ from regular drinking of any tap water in America. That should not be. We've seen the crises in Flint, Michigan. We've seen when government has failed to keep water pure. And also with the amount of antidepressants and hormone blockers like what you find in birth control and other pills that are taken orally, they don't get absorbed completely into your system. Well, where does that go? It gets flushed down the toilet, and not every water treatment center gets 100% of those poisons for some people in certain cases out of the water system. That's why you need a reverse osmosis machine like this one that can sit easily on your kitchen counter, not even bigger than perhaps the coffee maker you have right there at your desk or in your den. Covepure.com/RSBN, $200 off right now. Drink pure, live pure. It's worth it. All health. It's starting in the gut. I start every morning with prayer and cleansing my body by going directly to drink some water. You can see there, hot, cold, lukewarm, however you'd like it prepared in the morning. It's common sense at this point. Covepure.com/RSBN, the best in the market. Drink pure, live pure, $200 off now. Scan that QR code right away as we also celebrate mypillow.com/RSBN with a 6-piece towel sets back in stock. That's regularly around that $70 mark, 70, now down to less than 40 Very limited quantity right now. Look at all the different colors. And these towels are great because they actually get the water off of you after a shower. I mean, it's amazing how some don't do that. But Mike Lindell wants to bring you high-quality products, and we know how he has fought for freedom of speech and election integrity and the founding principles of this great nation. 800-836-7566. Call today. Don't delay. He was a dear friend of Charlie Kirk's as well as someone who shared the gospel of Jesus Christ and how it changed his life. Mike Lindell is a good friend of Right Side Broadcasting Network. Find over 2,000 products at mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you, sir, for having that available to us with a wonderful company right here in America in the great state of Minnesota. As we are 10 minutes away from the top of the hour, that is the exact path President Trump, that is Air Force One in the sky right now as it approaches one of my favorite islands, the lovely Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, where my family is originally from, the old country, and just over the pond, a little bit further, across the English Channel, to the United Kingdom. Friends of ours for years, it's where our country comes from. It's where Charlie argued at Oxford. And so the foundations of the great American experiment, dating all the way back to Magna Carta, and although that argued that a king would stand in place and bestowed upon the blessings of Christ and his kingdom to rule over Western civilization, we then had a revolution stating that King George III went off the rails, as he did, and that we could self-govern better. But as colonies and then states, a United States of America, in fact, an American nation that our forefathers fought for, arguing that every right came from God on high, magnifying what was written in the 13th century and walking away from the homeland to make a nation and civilization greater than ever before. As Benjamin Franklin walked out of that Constitutional Convention, the gentleman asked him, "What did you give us, Mr. Franklin?" And legend says that he responded, "A republic, if you can keep it." Charlie's legacy defended that. It changed the course of millennial and Gen Z politics for the future, for the better. And that's what he was always focused on. Not that the rest is history, but the rest is future. As this president goes for his second state meeting, a rare occasion that the UK will host this for any nation or any leader, but President Trump is special in the eyes of the English monarchy, and King Charles III, Queen Provost Camilla, hosting President and Mrs. Trump in a star-studded state dinner to celebrate the grand connection between our two great civilizations and two fantastic nations. A nation, in fact, a kingdom which celebrated Charlie Kirk over the last few days, and Christianity moving to the streets, a place where freedom of speech is technically illegal right now because of their prime minister and very far-left leadership. And we pray that all changes. And we continue to pray for our friends who have stood in the breach and have boldly proclaimed the legacy of defense of Western civilization that America's pastor, Charlie Kirk, truly took on his own shoulders and always pointed back to the glory of God. As we await President Trump to land in the United Kingdom, roughly 57 minutes from now at 3:50 Eastern Time, let's take a quick commercial break for sponsors. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as we cover the latest news for you today and, of course, the life and legacy of our dear friend, Charlie Kirk.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. As you see President Trump on Air Force One quickly approaching the Emerald Isle, and he'll head right on over to the United Kingdom for a state visit with His Majesty King Charles III, where a wreath-laying ceremony will take place for the late Queen, his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who President Trump was quite fond of. If you're just joining us, I'm Robert McNeely. Thank you for being with Right Side Broadcasting Network, especially over the course of the last several days and hours, where we have honored an icon, Charlie Kirk, and his life and legacy and the ripple effect it has had to vigils and ceremonies and people returning to church, people buying suits for their significant other for the first time and committing to a changed life based on honoring his legacy. It's been extraordinary to see as my former boss and a dear friend of mine is well on his way to heaven and reunited with his Lord and Savior. He talked about it on a daily basis, and he really became committed to it in the last several years, especially since COVID, through his beautiful wife, Erica, and their partnership showed that and showcased that they were kingdom focused. It was their mission to save America by telling the story in the gospel of Jesus Christ and his life-giving sustenance and message. It's an amazing story, and it's the greatest story ever told. And we all have a part to play in it because this is ultimately his nation. I always enjoyed how Charlie really would take on anyone who would argue that we're somehow not a Christian nation, and then he'd break it up with the evidence. The fact that 9 of the 13 original colonies, the first states, including Georgia, had to have some kind of declaration of Christian Bible-believing faith. Maryland being overwhelmingly Catholic, the other 8 Protestant. So you had all of that happening within the colonies. It's very clear at the writings of Thomas Jefferson, from the Virginia statutes on religious liberty to the Declaration of Independence, that our rights came from God, not government. But still today, in the golden era, with 250 years as we're approaching that birthday for America, you have senators from the Commonwealth of Virginia, like Tim Kaine, stating that rights come from government. What? Well, thank God for Ted Cruz, who walked into that hearing and said, no, Senator, you're wrong on that. Rights come from God on high, and they are bestowed upon us. Thanks be to the recognition of those men who came together, 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, to say the line is drawn in the sand. This is not where you will cross. Our Bill of Rights, our way of government, our judicial system, in fact, all of it coming directly from biblical principles and practices. And if you have not brought your family to the Museum of the Bible, where President Trump was celebrating just last week with the Religious Liberty Commission and Faith Office of this White House, I highly, highly recommend it, because you see Western civilization on display, where it comes from and who inspired it. Now, Robert Kiyosaki is warning about the everything bubble, its stocks, its pensions, its retirement, and your life savings. Wealth, security, preservation. Monetary gold is the best in the business. Grab your complimentary presidential gold guide with that handsome gentleman on front, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. Call today. Don't delay. It's 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees for life. RSBN4thegold.com. That's RSBN4thegold.com. Mr. Kiyosaki, not alone in this argument. Top investors know the bubbles created by money and inflation and printing by a federal government that has put us at $37 trillion of debt create interest rates that are bursting. It won't just hit Wall Street. It will hit Main Street. Your savings, your home, your retirement. The American dream could vanish in a single market crash. Follow the smart money. Get gold and silver, precious commodities that have stood the test of time, dating back over 5,000 years of human history. Again, RSBN4thegold.com, 800-476-7790. As we approach 3 o'clock, the top of the hour, President Trump will be landing at 3:50. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting as we cover just that. If you like what you see here at the network, we are your go-to rally network, especially over the last decade, fulfilling the vision of owner and founder Joe Seals. Remember all those people? You could go find it on YouTube or even on Rumble, wherever you like to stream. Like, share, and subscribe, RSBN, but also laugh at those videos of people like George Clooney who said, there will never be a President Trump. Remember Barack Hussein Obama on Jimmy Kimmel's show, dropping the mic saying, at least I'll be a president. Well, joke is on them in this golden era of the Make America Great Again movement. As you see the outstanding videos and photos from the 2024 campaign, one which I will never forget. RSBnetwork.com/donate. Text RSBN to 801-801 as we have become your go-to live desk since January of this year with original programming and also a daily live desk to bring you the latest, the greatest, the updates from the government you put into place on November 5th of last year. We also have a hard address if you'd like to send in a check or money order. It's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. In the loveliest village on the plains, it's Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. Auburn, Alabama, 36830. As we celebrated on Friday, a vigil for Charlie Kirk. You're seeing this across churches. You're seeing it in Franklin, Tennessee. They expected 200 people. It was more like 2,000 across the country, on the church steps to the halls of government, to a congressional vigil in Statuary Hall, where some of the greats, like Abraham Lincoln, argued their due diligence and served in Congress before arriving to the executive office of the presidency. You could see there live now, President Donald Trump aboard Air Force One, the citizen who became president, to pay respects to our friends across the pond in the second state dinner for this leader, for this country, with the United Kingdom. He'll attend a musical. He'll lay a wreath at the late Queen's tomb, Queen Elizabeth II, the mother of Charles III, and discuss additional tariffs, especially on steel and aluminum, and more trade deals with the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Some of the other highlights in news this week: President Trump is suing the New York Times for libel at a rate of $15 billion. We'll stay on that case and watch that for you. Tyson Foods also announcing Monday that it will stop using high fructose corn syrup and some other ingredients by the end of 2025 because we are making America healthy again. Also, President Trump said he'd like to declare Antifa a terrorist organization, a domestic terrorist organization, and that he's looking for ways to imprison potential people involved in that organization. There's also a look, per the Justice Department, at RICO statutes against George Soros, who admittedly crashed at least 5 different economies that we know of, especially in Eastern Europe, and has wreaked havoc using the far left in the United States of America, but makes a safe haven as a neighbor of Bill and Hillary Clinton with a massive wall around his house and security cameras. It's amazing how they like to lock doors and they like to build walls, but they, being the far left, say that we can't have one at the southern border. Food for thought as we cover a clash with cash. The FBI director at the judiciary hearing at the annual one with the leader of that committee, the president pro tempore of the Senate, Chuck Grassley of Iowa, has to deal with people like Senator Adam Schiff of California. This is their exchange earlier today.
Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of inmates.
Not in the weeds.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of the California. We are bringing historic reform.
Point of order.
But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
you said I'm the most
of
transparent FBI director in history. 33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Both of you be quiet.
Good for FBI Director Kash Patel for going after a senator who clearly pushed a hoax on this country while he was a congressman on the Intelligence Committee, and it was completely exposed by author Lee Smith, that FBI director before he served in that role, Kash Patel, when he was on council with then Congressman Devin Nunes. If it wasn't for those men, we perhaps would not know that the Russia hoax and Crossfire Hurricane was simply made up as a far-left attempt to undermine the authority and usurp the executive office of the President of the United States. It's extraordinary that he has now ascended to being a United States Senator, and it's truly extraordinary that he has not been prosecuted or charged with potentially a plethora of crimes, including mortgage fraud, because he's claimed to live in California and Maryland full-time. That's the same exact attempted charge that Tish James, the Attorney General of New York, attempted to use against the President of the United States to prevent him from running for office again. But as all this noise is going on, as all the far left continue their hysteria, as they are crash landing into a permanent minority class of elected officials, hopefully that is forever, because they don't care about this country. They hate the founding documents. They've proven as such. Memphis is truly troubled. President Trump focused on saving Memphis, Tennessee, and Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California, as he's done with Washington, D.C. When that city was taken over in early August, Mr. Producer and I, speaking before the show, there's only been one homicide in that period of time since relinquishing it back to the municipality. That happened on August 26. Numbers had skyrocketed in prior weeks, months, and years. In fact, we're trying to find the reason why, but the basketball team was once called the Washington Bullets. Do you remember that? I'm not sure the reason why. I'm assuming because of the amount of homicides that have happened in the federal city in countless years. As you see the helicopter fleet there that becomes Marine One upon President Trump going aboard and having those aircraft and helicopters designated as such. A new fleet, state of the art, to take President Trump, the First Lady, and also staff with them on their trip to the United Kingdom. We will stay on this in approximately 40 minutes. President Trump will be landing in the United Kingdom as he's about to go over the Emerald Isle of Ireland, a place near and dear to my heart. But again, Memphis, Tennessee is in very deep trouble right now. As we look to cut number 4, Mr. Director, the amount of chaos and how troubled this once fair city truly is.
Four children were shot inside a home in Hickory Hill.
Over the past month, within a quarter mile of the surrounding area, there have been 9 incidents, including burglary, shoplifting, simple assault, motor vehicle theft, and the shooting last night, which MPD confirmed is listed as an aggravated assault.
We're getting more insight into a shooting at a McDonald's in Memphis Sunday afternoon,
with the victim being an employee, a 17-year-old boy who was injured outside of the fast food restaurant. The president confirming the National Guard is coming to Memphis.
Memphis that's the next city. Deeply troubled.
For all the crime that's going on, it's necessary.
And you know, it's just so dangerous that you can't get out of your car, you can't go to the grocery store. So yeah, I want to see the crime stop. And if the National Guard is going to stop the crime, bring them out.
We're going to straighten out the crime in these cities.
It's common sense this president wants to bring back to the United States of America and truly lead, and it's now incumbent upon Democrat mayors, Democrat governors to work with this president. Just as Mayor Muriel Bowser, although she keeps doing hula hoops on talking points on a daily basis, worked with the federal government to make sure Washington, D.C., at least temporarily became safe. It's sad to think that Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson continue a narrative that resulted in the dragging of an ICE officer in critical condition in the hospital. They want to investigate because he defended himself and shot an illegal alien. They want more information about that. They want the ICE officers to take their masks off and then spread fear and hatred, saying they're thrown into vans. That's to quote the governor of Illinois, thrown into vans. No, these are federal vehicles, very clearly marked in many cases. But they wanted you to mask up during a pandemic and stand 6 feet apart. Mind you, he was shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm with people who were perpetuating a narrative and riots throughout the country during that Summer of Love 2020. The height of hypocrisy is truly incredible. Now, the vice president's whereabouts after that extraordinary hosting of the Charlie Kirk show just yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance tomorrow will visit a precision metal stamping facility in Howell, Michigan. So we'll stay on that for you as well as the vice president continues to execute on President Trump's agenda and bring more millennials and Gen Zers into the fold, as was discussed on the Charlie Kirk show just yesterday from the former Secretary of War's office, now the ceremonial office for the Vice President of the United States. Thank you to our sponsors on the right side of history, all family pharmacy. So important right now to stock up for flu season. It's the prep that can save your life in what can be rather difficult to deal with, because imagine waking up when someone has a cough or a fever in the household and there's nothing in the medicine cabinet. What do you do next? Is it scrambling? Do you have to figure out everyone's schedule? It becomes a mess. Flu season does not have to control you. Being proactive always beats last-minute purchases. So prep with the online pharmacy that is changing the ball game. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off. The code RSBN10, RSBN10. Scan the QR code now. Why not stock up on the essentials like Tamiflu and antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, it's NAD+, methylene blue, 200 essential medications, and emergency medical kits for you and your loved ones. It's fast. It's reliable. It takes 2 to 3 days, if not earlier, to get that right at your doorstep. So if you order now, 3:15 Eastern, maybe you'll have it within 24 hours or so right there for your medicine cabinet, and you don't have to scramble getting to the pharmacy tonight. In fact, your pharmacy might not even have these life-saving medications. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you don't have insurance, there's no red tape, no problem. You just need a pharmaceutical note for these doctors, nurses, and pharmacists who are patriots. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Why not make a trade and a bet on Kalshi.com/RSBN? Who will win the Nobel Peace Prize? I think the proof is in the pudding with President Trump, who has solved, it's been what now, 7+ different conflicts that were historically riddled with tribal warfare, racism, and countless lives lost to bloodshed, especially in Rwanda and the Congo, to the Philippines and Cambodia, to Pakistan and India, Israel, to Iran, and now President Trump working diligently with Russia and Ukraine pursuing the peace. Speaking of that, will President Zelensky meet with President Putin in January? Will it be bilateral? Will it be trilateral? Both leaders mentioning with the White House visit with European leaders and the Anchorage, Alaska summit with President Putin. Both leaders would like President Trump to be present for that moment. Makes a lot of sense as the two have continued to prove, Zelensky and Putin, that they really have no tolerance nor patience for one another. What say you? Scan the QR code now. Trade on anything at Kalshi.com/RSBN as we cover the latest inside and outside the Beltway for you. President Trump en route to the United Kingdom. And he is right over merry old Ireland at the moment, going over those extraordinary forks and just northeast now of the Ring of Kerry, the Cliffs of Moher, a beautiful part of the world and some of the nicest people you will ever meet, because those Irish eyes are always smiling, even though our hearts are sad and sorrowful with the passing of our dear friend, Charlie Kirk. For me, it's been therapeutic to talk about the man behind the mission and to reflect on the vice president's own words just yesterday, that we can't make peace with certain individuals who want to think about this for a moment. You're with or dropping off your students, your children at school or at the soccer practice, and the other parents hate your kids because you might have a different political view than them. I mean, where did that get developed? Where did that lack of thought and discernment happen? Perhaps it was on the college campuses of yesteryear. We know that the progressive movement has been hard at work for years and years and years, but more importantly to me, it was the vice president reflecting with Tucker Carlson and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and former Turning Point USA staff that now serves at the White House. And Vice President J.D. Vance said, I am keenly aware that I would not be sitting here as your vice president right now if it was not for Charlie Kirk. What an extraordinary legacy. And the humility of our vice president, an extraordinary communicator, to say from his ceremonial chair as second in command of the United States of America that I hope to do this show due diligence and justice with big shoes to fill. And what an extraordinary show that was. As he admired Charlie Kirk's enduring legacy, Vice President J.D. Vance and senior Trump administration officials, including Secretary Kennedy of HHS, honored the memory of Charlie Kirk by hosting a special edition of The Charlie Kirk Show live from the White House, coming together in a heartfelt tribute to the visionary conservative leader's unwavering faith, patriotism, and the values that inspired the next generation of American patriots. Vice President Vance shared powerful reflections about his personal friendship with Kirk and emphasized the need for truthful unity in the face of extraordinary tragedy. The last several days have been extremely hard for our country. They've been hard for me, hard for my family, hard for the countless people in the building who knew and loved Charlie Kirk. And of course, they've been hardest, most of all, for his darling wife, Erica, and their two beautiful children. The thing is, every single person in this building, we owe something to Charlie. And that is a direct quote from the Vice President of the United States. If it weren't for Charlie Kirk, I would not be the Vice President of the United States. But Psalm 133 tells us, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head." Oh, how badly have I craved that precious ointment in recent days, and I believe we can have it. But first, we must tell the truth. And finally, Vice President stating, "I really do believe that we can come together in this country, and I believe we must, but unity, real unity, can be found only by climbing the mountain of truth. And there are difficult truths we must confront as a nation. While our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left." And I'm in full agreement with the Vice President of the United States. But it takes an administration, it takes leadership to really focus at the issues at hand and to continue going as this president does. He's on mission right now. You can see him as he approaches the United Kingdom aboard Air Force One with our glorious First Lady Melania Trump to discuss trade deals, tariffs on steel and aluminum, and an undying friendship across the pond that has stood the test of time and generations. Cut to, Mr. Producer. This president, in case you missed it, was accompanied by Governor Bill Lee of the volunteer state of Tennessee and Senators Bill Hagerty and Senator Marsha Blackburn in order to make Memphis safe again, a historic city. Graceland is located there, the home of Elvis Presley, who changed the face of blues and rock and roll and music for countless generations. Truly a place that should be visited on a regular basis and lived in without the fear of being the highest per capita murder rate and violent crime in the entire nation. In case you missed that video, this is President Trump signing that memorandum for federal assistance at the invitation of Governor Bill Lee and the Justice Department to make Memphis great and safe again.
Today, at the request of Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, who's standing with us, as you know, I'm signing a presidential memorandum to establish the Memphis Safe Task Force, and it's very important because of the crime that's going on, not only in Memphis, in many cities, and we're going to take care of all of them, step by step, just like we did in D.C. We have virtually no crime in D.C. right now, and we're going to keep it that way. It's our nation's capital. We're going to keep it that way, or we're going to federalize it if we had to, but we don't have to anymore because it's in such great shape. This task force will be a replica of our extraordinarily successful efforts here, and you'll see it's a lot of the same thing, although the numbers here are really something. They're really bad.
And as we await President Trump to approach the United Kingdom aboard Air Force One, We are here for you at Right Side Broadcasting Network, analyzing the news of the day. In case you missed it earlier, Kash Patel, the FBI director, answering questions from senators on a plethora of topics in his annual FBI review by the Committee on the Judiciary. And sadly, we saw the Democrats go down the typical path that they do, especially with Senator Adam Schiff, as you saw that video earlier, between him and a clash with Kash, someone who's on very little sleep, doing an extraordinary job as head of the FBI, his deputy Dan Bongino, as well, stating in another interview that they were both personal friends of Charlie Kirk. I saw it in action during my tenure at Turning Point USA, and this is personal for them as it is for so many of us, countless millions throughout the country who knew Charlie and those who did not know Charlie but were simply motivated by his standards and his legacy. And our friend Jeannie Ives, who was on the show, host of The Real Story with Jeannie Ives, just texting me that there will be a prayer rally in Wheaton, Illinois, where I ran for city council, where she served on the city council and as a state representative in Illinois, on Sunday night at 7 o'clock. And we're seeing this across the nation, from Franklin, Tennessee to the Kennedy Center, all the way out west. It's churches, it's community, it's public squares all coming together, free and open to the public, to celebrate this lasting legacy. And that's what has turned my tears of sorrow into smiles of joy for a life and legacy unlike any other, a ripple effect now, where you've had 37,000 chapter signups as a result of what took place less than 1 week ago. And according to State Senator Jake Hoffman of State 48 in Arizona, already 220,000 plus signing up for the ceremony on Sunday morning, the memorial out in Glendale, Arizona at the State Farm Arena. I'm proud of you, Charlie. We will keep your legacy burning bright forevermore. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, angelpaste.com. Experience the Miracle Cream, which I've used right here at the network. You've seen me use this. I still use this today. It's non-GMO, no chemicals. It makes my skin all glowing and fantastic. Something that I think really stands out. And guys, trust me, I know that a lot of fishermen watch this show. I enjoy fishing as well. You could still grip that tackle box with angelpaste.com. It's the orange option. It's vitamin C infused, very important this time of year as we go into the fall months. Also, a natural facial spray, a natural mosquito repellent in addition to those fine items. But please visit angelpaste.com to experience the miracle of the original vitamin B infused cream, where you don't have to worry about chemicals going on your skin like other lotions. So it's a win-win common sense right there for you. Christian-owned. They hire veterans. They're based out of Spring, Texas, off of the Gulf of America, the Houston Metroplex in the Lone Star State. A wonderful place to live. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as CovePure.com is your reverse osmosis system that is truly your go-to. It's covepure.com/RSBN for $200 off. Well, you see displayed now on the kitchen counter just how easy it is to use. Everyone should have this in their kitchen, in their den, somewhere in the house, so you could start off your morning not only with prayer, but with good, clean water. You can see there, the lovely lady in the video gets to choose the temperatures. It's just like a coffee machine. It's very simple to use, very applicable. Also, the fact that Utah, Florida, drafting legislation to remove the fluoride and chemicals, pesticides, agricultural runoff from the water. So Secretary Kennedy can really give himself a pat on the back, because he was right about this over the last couple of decades, taking on the powers that be, corporations to government, who said, oh, that's not happening. JAMA Pediatrics did a study where children who drink tap water on a regular basis can lose over 2 points in their IQ in a rather sharp period of time. And we know what the COVID lockdowns did to harm public education in this great country. Why make it even worse? CovePure.com/RSBN. They have clear water technology, removing 99.9% of the impurities out of your water. Very passionate about this. And the fact that when you take vitamins, medicine, antibiotics, to antidepressants, to hormone blockers like birth control, that doesn't always get absorbed in its entirety in your system. So where does that go? Flush down the toilet through water treatment centers that don't block every single aspect of that in the water. So then you drink the tap water, and it sounds rather gross, but that could then get into your bloodstream. So go to covepure.com/RSBN right now for clear water technology, the best in the business. You need a reverse osmosis system. You might as well go with the number one on the market. Drink pure, live pure. Get $200 off right now at covepure.com/RSBN. It's 3:30. It's the bottom of the hour. We're anticipating President Trump to land as he's over the English Channel now and over the Republic of Ireland en route to the United Kingdom. Let's take a quick commercial break for sponsors. Stick with us. The President of the United States, the First Lady of the United States, expected to land in merry old England in roughly 20 minutes from now. Stick with us here. Don't change that channel. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network as we're tracking the exact flight pattern of President Donald Trump aboard Air Force One as he enters English airspace. A second state meeting that will be rather splendid because this is very unlikely to happen. Usually you're fortunate enough to get one state meeting with the United Kingdom and their royalty, but President Trump having a second one because of the amount of respect between His Majesty King Charles III and President Donald Trump. And perhaps they don't necessarily agree on every which way, especially when it comes to so-called green energy, which has really truly turned out to be a green new scam. One of my favorite speeches I've ever heard from President Trump was in 2019 in West Palm Beach, Florida, at a Turning Point USA event right before Christmas, the Student Action Summit, which is now held in the summertime and usually in Tampa, Florida. But we were down there and President Trump went on a 30-minute side note of his speech to feature why those things cannot be recycled, they're bird killers, and the fact that they're an absolute eyesore on the American people and on American farmland. And you have to ask that question with the Chinese Communist Party. They don't put up those windmills around their country. They simply construct them and sell them to the highest bidder, and that tends to be our American farmers because the regulations at one point were so high, especially with Canadian tariffs against our dairy farmers and our ranchers, and especially those up in dairy land itself of Wisconsin and just next door in Minnesota as well. President Trump changing that economic landscape, the focus on getting good, clean, healthy beef, poultry, and dairy as well. For the longest time, the United Kingdom, Europe as a whole, would not purchase exports from the United States in regards to farming due to pesticides, due to hormone blockers, or those injections that can go into Angus beef and, again, our chicken, to other food and animal products. That's all changed with the new $600 billion deal between the European Union and the United States at that last meeting at Trump International at Turnberry, Scotland. A $720 billion new energy deal, in fact, with more to be discussed in regards to Russia and the Russian Federation influence of oil over Europe. And I would say that's the biggest component, other than the scandal of the auto pen itself and who signed those pardons and how they cannot hold up in court if that then the sitting president of the United States was not aware of them. But the larger scandal, the canceling of the Keystone Pipeline, perhaps from Alaska and Anwar all the way down through western British Columbia to Alberta, throughout Canada, the Yukon territories, into the United States. And the former communist governor of Canada, Justin Trudeau, on his knees begging the auto pen, please, please, please don't cancel this, Mr. President. So destroy Canadian jobs in addition to American jobs. So for one brief shining moment, Mr. Trudeau was, at least temporarily, a capitalist. But then when that was happening, Germany, who dominated economically over the European Union and Europe as a whole as its financial center at the expense of other nations' sovereignty, greenlit, along with the blessings of the auto pen, Nord Stream 2, the Russian pipelines of natural gas and oil coming into Europe, and then whining and complaining about Russia as it invaded Ukraine. You don't have to be political to look at that and say that's not common sense. That's either stupidity or there's malintent. That's either complete neglect and people who don't know a damn thing about business, or there's something more insidious about it. Perhaps a global order and a team of communists to Islamists, the runoff of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and that third nasty secular globalism, a lot of which you will see at the United Nations next week, Tuesday, September 23rd, as President Trump will address that body in New York City. You know, I hope certain people, especially the Venezuelan government, perhaps Iran, if they dare set foot on American soil, I hope they don't go to our nicest restaurants, or I hope they are at least looked at and said, shame on you, peacefully and patriotically, for what they do to their citizens. Because this is only one generation away from extinction. This great constitutional experiment, which you put into place peacefully and patriotically last November. And think of the countless successes now with less than a year in office, and the sacrifices President Trump and his family have made in order to help save this extraordinary nation. But sadly, our big cities are facing violence. You have situations in Memphis, Tennessee, 249 murders in 2024, nearly 450 rapes, to over 12,000 criminal assaults. And Democrat leadership left looking like deer in the headlights. Thank God that we have a common sense administration working for partnerships in public and private spheres in order to make America safe again. And we know that that starts with a good night's rest, something so important to do, because let's be honest, not all of us are like President Trump and can get the 4 hours of sleep or less. But that 6-piece towel set, a new big deal from Mr. Mike Lindell, who is a dear defender of freedom of speech and election integrity. The back in stock towel sale going right now, normally $70 going for less than $40, $39.98, a very limited quantity. It's mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Don't delay. It's 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. mypillow.com/RSBN. You can also donate to this fine network. We are part of the new media. We are taking on the status quo. We are taking on the powers that be. We are taking on a legacy media that sometimes has entrenched interests. We've seen that over the course of the last decade. And as your now go-to live desk, please feel free to donate to us so we can continue that very near and dear mission to our hearts. It's rsbnetwork.com/donate, or you can text RSBN to 801-801. There's also a hard address that you can send a money order into or a check at 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, it's Box 344 in the loveliest village on the plains. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830. And whether it's people like Coach Bruce Pearl to the latest Miss America 2025, Abby Stockard, to Bryland Hollyhand, we have quite a nice, lovely little neighborhood here of people who are shaping the American ethos and making America great again simply by the people that they are, simply by charitably sharing their opinions, by sharing their faith in Jesus Christ and their love for constitutional principles that have stood the test of time. Charlie Kirk was robbed of that last week, but in turn inspired millions of people to stand up to make that cause happen, not only peacefully and patriotically, but breaking bread with those who disagree. And as we've honored his life and legacy here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, nothing brings me more joy to see my friend honored by countless people, many of whom never knew him, never had a discussion with him, never had the opportunity to shake his hand across this fine nation of ours. With people from the cabinet and the administration, familiar names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to Tulsi Gabbard, Carrie Lake, Caroline Leavitt, and countless others throughout Washington, D.C., a line that wrapped around the building for blocks to honor his life and legacy, to municipal gatherings, like in Franklin, Tennessee. They expected around 200 or so people. It became closer to 2,000 in the process. And that same storyline happening from coast to coast as it comes pouring into my phone, the different rallies being held on a near daily basis as we celebrated that legacy on Friday evening right here in Auburn, Alabama, on the Samford lawn, where they rolled the corner as they did after that glorious homecoming victory over rival South Alabama just this past Saturday. I'm sure many of you going through all of these different phases of grief in the process, from the mourning to the simple belief that how could this have happened, to anger, and then ultimately acceptance and joy, and every process and adjective that you can fill it with. I'm sure you've all felt that gnawing and that punch in the gut. And thank you to those who have reached out as I continue to, when off air, reach out via text or messenger across various platforms on social media to long phone calls with friends and colleagues. Because without that man, much of what we do in new media and throughout the conservative movement would simply not happen. And can we really even call it conservative more than simply common sense? Simply loving your neighbor? Simple biblical principles that formed this nation and have led that man on a mission. Currently, as we watch over Air Force One getting ready to land in the United Kingdom with our illustrious First Lady, a legal immigrant. Think about her journey, her path to New York City to be at the top of the fashion world. Something not easy to do, and as she's put it as well, a very difficult arena. But not only is Donald Trump and the memory of Charlie Kirk truly the men in the arena, citizenship in a republic, as the late, great Teddy Roosevelt put it, but this entire Trump family who has taken on this mission to help make America great again. As we cover the daily news for you with analysis, content, commentary, and the long form. Actually, we talk to people. We ask those questions. We let them answer. And we do not edit the speeches, the press conferences, and just about everything in between to showcase your 45th and 47th President of the United States, your 50th Vice President of the United States, and your 119th Congress. And this cabinet continues to take the ridiculous attacks from the far left, as we saw earlier with the clash with Kash. FBI Director Kash Patel taking on Senator Adam Schiff, someone responsible for the Russia hoax during the annual Judiciary Committee hearing on the FBI, going over a plethora of questions from Epstein to what happened to Charlie last week. And for what I've seen, this FBI director focused completely on making America safe again. A large topic as we think about how we can keep our families safe in a world that has changed in the last few days and hours. As President Trump continues to push the America First agenda, arriving in the United Kingdom. And we will take you there once that happens to see the grand aircraft that is Air Force One when he is aboard, as we get a live look now of the tracking system as he's above English airspace in the United Kingdom. In case you missed it, Mr. Producer, if we could play back that discussion, if you will, between FBI Director and Senator Adam Schiff. Again, I remind you, Senator Adam Schiff responsible for the Russia hoax, Crossfire Hurricane, and ultimately covering up a narrative that sought to usurp the authority of the President of the United States and ultimately remove him and then try to disqualify him from running for re-election. And this individual has the gall to sit up there. I'm glad the FBI Director called him out. We'll play that now.
Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of inmates.
Not in the weeds.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of the California. We are bringing historic reform.
Point of order.
But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
you said I'm the most
of
transparent FBI director in history. 33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Both of you be quiet.
It's a masterclass in dealing with the left and their hysteria and the panicans who seek to harm this country. And it's their rhetoric and their allegiance to communist ideologies that have weakened us. But fortunately, there are people like FBI Director Kash Patel working overtime to make America safe again. Now imagine someone in your family waking up to a cough or a fever, and then it gets all through the house, and we know how it goes from there. Flu season does not wait, so being unprepared is simply not an option. Your flu season prep, all brought to you by allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Prepare your medicine cabinet before the flu season with 10% off. Now code RSBN10, and you won't be scrambling last minute. So scan that QR code now. Stock up on the essentials like Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals. You also have NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, ivermectin, all proven life-saving entities. Also over 200 essential medications, emergency medical kits, and also antibiotics to make sure that you remain safe during this flu season. Now you have the PBMs and President Trump's executive order that is stopping their double dipping from insurance companies who control pharmacies, perhaps down the street from you, that prevent you from having the life-saving medication that you deserve. But it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN that cuts through the red tape and the bureaucracy with doctors and pharmacists, nurses who are patriots. And if you do not have insurance for whatever reason, that's okay, as long as you have a pharmaceutical note for, again, these life-saving medications that are making the world of difference. Be prepared, stock up that medicine cabinet, take these flu season preps with you on the road. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Having tangible gold and silver, the hot commodities of 2025, just as they were 5,000 years ago, really in the whole of human history, monetary gold is the best option with wealth and security preservation. Grab your complimentary 4547 Presidential Gold Guide today. Call today, in fact. Don't delay. 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees for life. It's RSBNforthegold.com. RSBNforthegold.com. Two banks have already failed in 2025. $37 trillion of debt on the docket and more failures on the way, although these tariff negotiations and these new trade deals truly changing the global economy for the better, bringing in billions and billions for the United States, but still a long way to go. This is not fear-mongering. It's simply protecting you and your wallet and the hard work you did for your pension, your retirement, your simple savings. The government can't bail everyone out. That's a simple fact, and Wall Street will not only feel the effect of things that happened like 2008 and the housing crash and crisis, but it will affect Main Street. So don't let the system trap you. Go to All Family Pharmacy. Well, go to that, but also Monetary Gold. It's rsbnforthegold.com. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees for life. That sounds like a good deal, does it not? rsbnforthegold.com. It's 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate those IRA fees permanently. Thank you to Monetary Gold for sponsoring us on the right side of history. President Trump should be landing momentarily just northeast of merry old London, England, in the United Kingdom for state visit. The second, in fact, of this president to the United Kingdom. The first was in the first term with the late, great Queen Elizabeth II and her son, now His Majesty King Charles III. ready to host the 47th president of the United States. This friendship dating back for years and years. President Trump knowing then Prince Charles for most of their professional lives and careers in something you don't see as often as you once did, constitutional monarchy. More ceremonial these days, but nonetheless, he is traveling to a United Kingdom that is not exactly fond, politically speaking, of its leader, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, with a stagnant economy, with far-left policies stifling their growth and economic growth specifically, but also the woke agenda, the migrant crisis, illegal aliens who have stormed the United Kingdom, who don't want to assimilate to the values that once made Great Britain just that, great. It's in the name. But we stand with those citizens who defied the free speech rules, where free speech technically does not exist. The United Kingdom has run away from its devotion to and practice of the values of Magna Carta, dating back to the 13th century. But those people, those citizens, it did not deter them from going out into the streets and celebrating not only their faith, but the life and legacy of Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk. It may not be known as well that Charlie advocated deeply for all of Western civilization. You saw that in his speeches at churches to the college campuses, with Turning Point Action, to Turning Point Faith, to Turning Point USA, the original 501c3. And these individuals inspired by that to talk about their Christian faith and to talk about freedom and liberty and the freedom of assembly, something so worth fighting for. And Charlie creating chapters and organizations in an international sense, including the second biggest next to Turning Point USA was Turning Point UK, the United Kingdom, where we had the absolute privilege of working with British colleagues to bring freedom and common sense to the Commonwealth. Something that CPAC is doing as well, as you've seen in their CPAC South Korea to Japan, down to Australia, and countless other countries inspired by the timeless values of Western civilization. And that pesky gathering of documents and historical fact that is believed to be sacred scripture and the Word of God itself, the Bible. And that Museum of the Bible is a place you must visit with your family and friends if you have the opportunity, because you can literally see President Trump's Bible that he received from his mother upon entering into the Presbyterian Church in New York City. Sits right near King Charles V of Spain, and you see the grand vision of our God on high and how much he deeply loves our country. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And all we must do is believe and follow him and declare him as our own Lord and personal Savior. It's a beautiful gift. And this country, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, stands broadly on his shoulders. And may every other government do the same. As President Trump is just northeast of London aboard Air Force One, we'll take you live to the landing moments from now. In the meantime, let's take a quick commercial break for sponsorships. Stick with us as we approach the 4 o'clock hour on the East Coast and the 10 o'clock hour British Standard Time. This is Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Don't change that channel.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We will take you live to the United Kingdom, where we're approaching the 9 o'clock hour, 5 hours ahead of the East Coast. It's 4 o'clock, and this is Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely, as we cover the latest from the Trump White House, releasing that Memphis residents welcome President Trump's action to restore public safety. President Donald Trump's bold action plan to deploy federal resources to Memphis marks a powerful step forward in the fight to make the city safe again amid its struggle with turmoil and constant violence. Violent crime that has befell such a great city, one that is momentous in the American ethos. Now, this bold federal-state partnership drew immediate criticism from the far left, but praise from residents, business owners, and area lawmakers as a transformative step to reclaim the city from violent crime and chaos. Residents who have endured this for years, escalating dangers, hailed it as a long overdue lifeline. This is an opportunity for us and for our city. I hope we make the most of it. An East Memphis, Tennessee businessman mentioned just this week. I don't even feel safe anymore, except for the places I know. They have security guards. You really don't know how bad it is in Memphis unless you have been part of it for 40 or 50 years. This has been needing to be done for a long, long time, according to a longtime Memphis resident. Now, if the National Guard is going to buffer between them and the police will help minimize the crime, that's a great thing, according to a Memphis woman whose son was recently shot and killed trying to break up a fight in the city. And we're grateful to those true masculine men out there, people that Charlie Kirk inspired, to do something about it when your fellow resident citizen is being harmed by someone else. Something that Irina Zarutska did not experience, sadly, in the Queen City of Charlotte, as people just went about their business as she was stabbed to death, unnecessarily so, by an absolute maniac, President Trump calling for the death penalty in that case. I have armed security 7 days a week, and it's unbelievable what happens every day in front of my restaurant. Without a doubt, the federal deployment will help. It's a Memphis restaurant owner. And notice many of these people, they can't share their name in fear of retribution. President Donald Trump is finally saying, yes, Memphis matters. We are going to make Memphis safe again because our local leaders have failed to do so. Again, from a Memphis resident there. And Governor Bill Lee echoing the elected officials praising President Trump's move for the volunteer state. We do have a desire in Tennessee to partner with the Trump administration. The first thing I want to say is thank you to President Trump. We requested, and he is providing, a full complement of federal resources to help Tennessee address crime, which is a serious problem in the great city of Memphis. We've been working with the Trump administration for months on a strategy for Memphis, Tennessee, and we now will have the resources to finally address an issue that has dragged on for way too long. Those thoughts echoed by Senator Marsha Blackburn, who is a candidate for governor to succeed Mr. Bill Lee. Tennesseans are grateful for what the Trump administration is doing for Memphis to rid it of crime and violence and restore law and order in this great city. This is a long-term effort to make Memphis safe again. Thank you, @Real Donald Trump and Senator Bill Haggerty. I thank President Trump. This is an extraordinary display of federal, state, and local resources working together and setting partisan politics aside to do what's in the best interest of Americans and to keep their communities safe. As we see now that live look of Air Force One by radar, making a U-turn over northeast of the great city of London, England, as President Trump prepares to land and dialogue with our friends across the pond. So much we have in common together, especially in light of the sad events of last week and losing Charlie Kirk. That was awe-inspiring, from South Korea to the United Kingdom, other countries around the world, here stateside, to watch the vigils, the chants, the celebrations. Mind you, no burning of cars, no looting of restaurants or businesses, no fake chants or claims of hands up, don't shoot, as we saw in Ferguson, Missouri, which really launched the entire BLM communist movement. And we now know on the other side of it all that there are some who choose to do harm to their fellow residents. There are some who choose to use a communist ethos and a mission to destroy this great nation, because what's in the way of that? It's the Christian church. It's people of goodwill. Charlie Kirk stated that in the tribute video this week that I find myself watching over and over again in the morning to late in the evening. The Christian is called to correct errors in society, and we all fall short of the glory of God. But it is what we are called to. It is in our very nature, in the dignity that He on high has given to us through these inalienable rights. It's our duty to speak up. And I hope now that you find that courage, that you find that ability to be just and merciful in every aspect of life. I've been reviewing how I can do that in my daily living, how I can be more charitable, how I can be a better light of Christ to friends, to colleagues, to family members, to perfect strangers, just as Charlie was. And it's no over-exaggeration by any means. What you saw with him is what you got, and I'm honored to have a platform like this, and without Charlie Kirk, that would not have existed. I can tell you that right now. And although we feel this pain right now, we can rest assured that his legacy lives on and that we will see our friend again as the mission continues, with President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump arriving in the United Kingdom. Let's toss it there to Air Force One, touching down with our friends across the pond.
whoever the president is, the argument that by law now the British government clear that there's a political alignment, so there is no political alignment between the government of
No class photography on the tarmac. No
And President and Mrs. Trump aboard Air Force One, deplaning to be greeted by the Right Honorable Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Victoria Lady Starmer of the United Kingdom in a star-studded state-coordinated trip. Will be exciting to see the next couple of days with our friends across the pond as they discuss tariffs on steel and aluminum, further trade deals between the United States and the United Kingdom, and a wreath-laying ceremony to take place at Queen Elizabeth II's tomb and graveside, as President Trump was very fond of her, and a long, storied relationship with the royal family and monarchy of Great Britain and the United Kingdom. MyPillow.com/RSBN, a great sponsor here at the network, the free speech defender, the integrity fighter for elections. This man has done so much for our great country. He loves Jesus, and he loves bringing a good product to you, American-made, right out of Minnesota. It's a 6-piece towel set back in stock, regularly $70. It's 70. Look at all those colors, all of those great options there, but very limited quantity. This will go fast. Under $40 now. The master marketer, as President Trump puts it, mypillow.com/RSBN. It's Mike Lindell. Call today. Don't delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network at mypillow.com/RSBN. Over 2,000 products, in fact, at that great site. If you like what you see with this new and improved live desk ever since January, we have been your go-to network over the course of a decade, fulfilling that vision of our founder, Joe Seals, to bring you in real time Trump rallies across the nation when legacy media outlets just would not do that. Now they can't get enough of it, but we also have become a go-to live desk for you to bring you unbridled access to your government. The 45th, 47th President of the United States, his trip to the United Kingdom, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, the 50th edition, who is traveling to Michigan tomorrow, and the 119th Congress, which held a solemn ceremony in honor of our friend Charlie Kirk. You can text RSBN to 801-801 or rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, a full address if you'd like to mail in that check or money order. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6. It's Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. That is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. As news from today, Utah prosecutors today formally charged the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination with aggravated murder and intend to seek the death penalty if convicted. And that individual, I'll only say his name once, Tyler Robinson, 22 years old, accused of firing the single rifle shot from a rooftop in a sniper's nest that killed our dear friend Charlie Kirk last Wednesday, September 10th, on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem. It's about 40 miles south of Salt Lake City and roughly 4 hours from where he's being held in a maximum security facility, as reported. Now, there was also a man detained moments after Charlie Kirk's killing took place by the name of George Zinn, 71 years old, for falsifying a confession and thwarting authorities, stating that he did that and then mocking the entire situation. Also, apparently having images on his cell phone depicting child abuse. It's sadly become very clear in the last few days that this is good versus evil. As stateside here, we see quite the rainy day in Washington, D.C. It's a sunshine-filled day in the loveliest village on the plains, but I think our hearts feel more like it does right now on display in Washington, D.C. The tears of sorrow, tears of joy for a life that cannot be replicated. Each and every life has significant dignity and is loved in the eyes and the heart of God on high. And Charlie believed that deeply. We're going to the Trump gaggle, actually, breaking news here, President Trump in the United Kingdom.
told him yesterday we took down the tent. That tent's been up for 3 years. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow. Since 1978.
Since 1970. Well, you should have told me sooner. I would have taken it down. But we got it down after you said in 24 hours it was down. And they had a lot of permits, but they weren't current. So we got it down. Enjoy yourselves, right? You're going to have some great pictures today. You're going to have the best pictures done. It's going to be a beautiful event. Everyone's looking forward to it. And we'll just relax and have a good time. The country's doing well. Stock market setting all sorts of records. And I think there's never been a time like this. We had the horrible tragedy, but we're going to have to do something about that. We can't let that happen. So I'll be going to the service on Sunday, coming back, and then we're going, and I guess a lot of you are coming out with us. Okay? So enjoy yourselves, okay? It's great to have you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Godspeed, Mr. President, as he is in the United Kingdom to negotiate tariffs and new trade deals with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the lovely wives beside both leaders and gentlemen of the highest order. First Lady Melania Trump and Victoria Lady Starmer greeting our first couple from the United States to the leadership in the United Kingdom. It should be a star-studded event, as President Trump mentioned, as he prepares to say goodbye to our friend Charlie Kirk come Sunday. We will have all unbridled access for you in the United Kingdom over the next couple of days and of that ceremony over the weekend to celebrate the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. In the meantime, do what Charlie would encourage. Give a call to someone who you might disagree with, or a family member or a friend who might not see it the same as you and you haven't been talking to them for a while. It's worth, even if it's 5 minutes, just to say hello and check on your friends and hug those tight, those ones you love and care about, because life is short, as we're reminded in these sad days. But we'll get through this together, America, as we reflect upon an extraordinary person and cover for you a government which you put into place and which you will see through as we approach 250 years of a golden era. For all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we will see you tomorrow unless there's breaking news. May God bless you and your families. I'm Robert McNeely. Good night.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.